Hi guys, welcome. This week you're going to be listening to a conversation between myself, my beautiful co-host Jody, who you've seen before, and a couple called Alex and Evie, and they are dream interpreters. Now they've been interpreting dreams for over 16 years. And I know they're really good because I went to see them, because they were my friends anyway, with a dream that I had, a reoccurring dream for a couple of decades, and when you just have it for so long, you just put it at the back of your mind, you think, oh, whatever, never going to know what it means. But they interpreted it for me, and it made such amazing sense that it actually did turn a section of my life around. So I thought I'd invite them, ask them some questions, and they can share their amazing knowledge and experience with you. So guys, enjoy listening.
So first question is, why do we dream? Is it our brain trying to tell us something? And is it true that everyone we see in our dreams are people that we've seen in real life but maybe don't know them? Because a lot of people I've heard have said everyone they see in their dream, even if they don't recognize them, they're still someone that they've seen like on the street or in a shop, which I thought was quite interesting.
Well, everyone dreams. In fact, 97% of the world dreams.
Wow.
So the 3%, the unaccounted for, and it's not an exact science, mainly don't dream because they have some kind of chemical issues. They have had brain issues. You know what I mean? There's internal issues for them that prevent them, that part of the brain, from connecting with the front part of the brain. So they can't dream. But everybody else dreams, whether they like it or not.
Also, people who can't sleep for one reason or another, or find it difficult to sleep, and they don't go into that deep sleep where dream happens. So, yeah, those people. So
dreams, in terms of the sleep period, you just to let, I mean, you may know this already, but we'll just rehearse it briefly. Is when you're going to lose consciousness, say up here, you then go usually fairly deeply into a deep sleep, say within an hour and a half or so. Sometimes that's disturbed, but eventually you normally get there. Now, from the point at which you go the deepest sleep to the point at which you wake, which is normally 4 to 5 hours, that's called your rapid eye movement, your REM period of sleep. It's because your eyelids will move to reflect what's going on in your head, even though your mouth may not be speaking. So that's how you can know someone's dreaming, and how you can measure what's going on.
Okay.
So that REM period of sleep is when most of your dreams occur.
Wow.
That's the first thing to say about dreams themselves. What was the next question?
I've just asked a lot of people sort of about anything they know about dreams. And a lot of people seem to know that people who you might not know, just people who you've like walked past in the street, may pop up in your dream. Apparently it's like a sort of well-known fact, which I thought was quite crazy, that people you don't know can pop up in your mind.
Yeah, both past and present, in fact. Evie, you want to say anything about that? Well, the short answer is people in dreams fall into 3 categories of importance or significance. Firstly, it can be the person. So the dream isn't usually about somebody else, but there may be a connection with somebody else, which is almost symbolic. So, for example, if you had a relationship which has fallen apart, you may still want that relationship, but your partner doesn't want that relationship. You may then start to dream about that partner in different situations, which is your heart processing the emotions that are going through your head. So that person is real in the sense of there's a direct connection with conscious life. The second aspect of why people appear in dreams is because their name or their character is symbolic of something. It means something. So they represent something. Yeah. Mm. The third part of why people come into your dreams, particularly people you know, is because they're actually working out a characteristic of you. So if there's somebody who you are like at that point, that person come into your dream and behave or do something which is a part of your behavior which you're processing internally.
Wow.
So, Alex, it doesn't matter then if you dream of somebody that's passed away. This has nothing to be, I don't know.
Well, okay, if we move into the deceased bit, what happens is that because we dream and there's a loss, if someone around us or someone we know well dies or is in some way, you're unable to connect with them. So it feels like they've died or you've died, something's died between you. What will happen is that this bereavement, this kind of grief really is out working in your dream life as well as in your conscious life. Because dreams track reality. So dreams are your night parables, so your night journey, whereas you have a conscious journey and a subconscious journey. So dreams are your subconscious journey.
Yeah, but they're also your emotions acting, you know, in your sleep. So your emotions maybe don't shut down. It's a way of them expressing what's going on inside you. And it uses what your brain knows. It uses like a network there to express that into a dream.
So the dream essentially is your heart telling your head how it's feeling. So your head is processing all this information. You think, suppose if you watched, you did a binge TV and you watched 8 hours of movies or shows, whatever, okay, your brain will be busy processing 8 hours of images, one after the other, probably millions of images. Okay? Now, the brain's got to do something with that. So what it will do is it will put it where it can so that you don't get overloaded. On top of that comes all the emotions that come with the dream, conversations you've had, decisions you have to make, issues you've got with parents, whoever it might be, school, work, home, whatever. All of that generates emotions. So your dream is exploring the issue, the tension, not necessarily in a negative way, but it's exploring the facts or the images or the conversations. It's all going in there and it's got to go somewhere and it ends up coming out in your dreams.
Okay.
So to go back to the bereavement bit, which is where we started, if you've lost someone or you can't connect with someone who is important to you, your heart is telling your head how much you miss them. So it wants to recreate that person in whatever shape or form. So the more real the person who's gone, if you like, or not there, is to you emotionally, the more intense is your dream, the more emotional is your dream, the more real is your dream, almost to the point where you can actually see them physically.
Another question I've got is, how can we use our dreams to help us work through our anxiety? If that's possible.
Yeah, well, dreams have different levels as well, and
Layers of meaning.
Layers of meaning. So, and there are so many different dreams that some of the dreams, how many different dreams are there? Common dreams.
There's probably 10 common dreams, like common themes, like dying, being separated from something, being chased,
falling,
flying, fighting and winning. You know, there's the common ones.
And running,
losing things, finding things, but more losing things. Many of them are anxiety. They are anxiety dreams. So, and the reason why they're anxiety dreams, or tend to be, is because most of the time we don't worry about being happy. We worry if we can't be happy, and there's a reason why we can't be happy. You know, we tend to pick up on the negative emotions, stuff that causes us pain or discomfort or insecurity or doubt. Those are things that come up because that's what most people seem to be dreaming about, certainly in this country. So it tends to be you're chewing over in your dream life what's going on in your conscious life. So if you've had a huge argument with your best friend, your head may rationalize it. Okay, we agree to differ. I'm not going to talk to you for 3 weeks. Your heart says, you really want that to happen? But your heart's not happy because of the loss of something which is important to you. So in your dream life, you might find 2 or 3 dreams that come up, which are quite emotionally intense, where your heart is telling your head how it's feeling about a decision that you've made in your head. You follow? So the answer to your question is, they do speak because they will reflect what's going on. They will help you to put into perspective, and the more emotional they are, sometimes you wake up in a sweat or tears or you're crying, whatever it might be, that will tell you the significance of the issue to you. If you can barely remember it, just a vague one-liner, you think, okay, yep, that passed through. It didn't get stuck emotionally. Your dream's able to process, your brain was processing that, okay, yep, I've got to live with that. So the second thing to say about that is you get recurring dreams, which are dreams that are repeated until you have somehow resolved a situation, and they will keep coming. They might be every 5 years, or it might be every 2 days.
So this will be where a dream interpreter would be a good idea. We do get reoccurring dreams from people who have had some sort of situation going back in their past a long way, and they've suppressed it. They've pushed it down, and like their memory of it has faded, but their heart hasn't forgotten. Somehow the heart is connected to the conscience, and things may not be happy, and for years you can continue to suppress that. But maybe one day something happens, triggers that, and it will trigger a dream. And so the dream is about recognizing that whatever happened left you unhappy, that needs to be resolved.
So a recurring dream is always telling you that it's something which is unresolved. And interesting enough, one last point on recurring dreams is that it will be unfinished in the dream itself. What you call the narrative of the dream, it'll be unfinished, it'll be ongoing. And the reason it's ongoing is because the issue is ongoing.
Yes, that makes sense, because I had a recurring dream when I was a child. I still don't know, I'm not sure what the problem was, but it's like I was flying across this, I had a cream blanket as a child, and it's like I was zooming across the surface of it, and there was like this like Death Star at the end of the blanket, and I never got to it. I'm not sure what that meant, but I never got to the Death Star at the end of the blanket, so that would make sense if the narrative of that never ends, if the issue hadn't ended. Although in saying that, I haven't had the dream in a while, so.
Well, sometimes you don't get anyone or anything in your dream life that says, oh, now we've dealt with that. The dream just stops.
Yeah.
Can I ask something about the blanket? Was it like a comfort blanket? Was it like one of those that you go to sleep with?
Yeah, it might have been. I used to do brownies, so it had all my brownie badges on it. So it was
might be something that took you out of your comfort zone and left you in a very challenging sort of situation.
For me, it's all about, I've got the word security blanket. The blanket's quite big in my thinking, and you don't want to get to the end of it.
Quite possibly. Yeah.
So you don't, you choose not to, because you can't deal with what you think is at the end of it. So you never actually get there. So that's why it's a recurring dream, because it can't be finished.
My Wi-Fi's.
The fact you don't get that dream now means that the issue is resolved, because the dream is gone.
So your dreams are there to help you. That's what you're saying, that your heart's telling your head and you're processing stuff. Why does it do it in such a a complicated way? Why can't it just tell you in a really like, this is happening, this is what you need to do, and because of this? Why does it go metaphorical and like not straightforward?
Well, the reason is actually quite simple. Emotions don't have a language of their own because they're external. So it's a bit like piggybacking. It's got to find a language to explain how it's feeling. So it borrows your cognitive process language, which is the cerebral, the front part of your brain. It borrows your language grid. So that explains, for example, when you wake up, you think you just had a dream. And that dream could have happened 5 hours ago. But the actual processing shifts from the back of the head to the front of the head at the point at which you wake. It's got to go somewhere. Imagine trying to grasp water with your hands or oil with your hands. You can't do it. That's like the emotion. The emotion is the oil or the water. So it's got to go through a grid, which then is able to separate it out and make sense. So your brain does something quite supernatural. It makes sense. It puts words and phrases and adjectives and language, if you like, on something which doesn't have a language of its own. It just feels.
Does that answer your question?
Yeah, it does. It does.
Which is why you say things like in human language, this doesn't feel right. Now, you can't actually academically question it. You can't scientifically identify what you mean by that, but you know it. You know something doesn't feel right. It's not to do with feeling in the common sense that we understand the word feeling, but it's something inside of you which you know is out of joint or not fitting or not meshing, whatever the word is. You just know it's not right. Dreams are dealing with that kind of language. They're trying to give you an emotional concept that's going on in your heart, which is the emotional center, if you like, of the body. The only way it can communicate with you in your sleep mode is when you wake, is to deliver it to the letterbox in the front of your brain with your cognitive responses, which includes language.
So I'm just wondering, right, so if we're more in touch with our emotions, will that help us to make sense of our dreams quicker? Like, and if you just ignore your emotions, does it make it harder for you to understand your dreams?
I think so. Yeah.
I think that my observation is that people that we've interpreted dreams for, the people who struggle most with their dreams are those who struggle often with metaphorical language or symbolic language, I will call, stuff that's, if they think vertically, rationally, often they will struggle with thinking laterally.
Okay.
Because dream language is basically on the far end of lateral thinking. So if you can embrace lateral thinking, you're more likely to have a go at interpreting your dreams, because it's metaphorical language start to finish.
So if you're more creative, then you will be able to understand it a little bit better. Is that what you're saying?
Generally, that's been the case.
Okay, thank you. Go, Jody.
Someone has asked whether it's like important if we should write down our dreams like in a diary, if that would be a good idea.
I think if you dream regularly, yes, probably. Or if not, I mean, it just depends on how much you really want to find out about what your dreams mean. So it's a really good idea to do that. And you might find that in some dreams, you do get different type of dreams, but they all seem to come back to the same theme. And so in your dreams, there are themes as well, which, if you're not taking any notice of that one, then another one will come along that may be very similar theme, and so on. So you can have 3 dreams maybe sometimes in one night, and they're all saying something different, but all coming back to the same thing.
Okay. Yeah.
They're all different dreams.
Yeah, I'll pick up on that too, because if you think about the kingdom parables or the lost parables, the son, the pearl, sheep, and there's 4 of them in scripture, Jesus told you, they're all saying the same thing. So why does he give you 4 contexts for the same principle truth? Because he wants to accentuate its profoundness, it's the immediacy of it, but also the principle of it. So your dream language will do the same. So if you're not listening to your dreams, it will give you the same message again in another form.
Okay.
Using another set of examples, another context, different person, different scenario, different context, until it's communicated with you that you need to think about this.
Wow.
So if you ask somebody, okay, it's nice to say, oh, you have dreams but you don't remember them. Is there a way of prompting our hearts or minds or something to remember them? You know, what if you really want to remember them? If you want to, you know, have a journal or something.
You can fool the brain to some extent, because this is not an exact science. So some people will say, well, I don't have regular dreams, but when I do, they're lucid. I'm all over the place. You know, other people.
Okay, what's a lucid dream?
A lucid dream is where you are, a lot more of your brain is awake.
Okay.
And so your cognizant responses are there. You can see. You can actually be involved in the dream. I've got a friend of mine who used to have battles. So he'd at the end of his bed, and there'd be a stage built. Sometimes there'd be a telly screen, and he'd be watching a drama. Sometimes he'd be watching a stage, and sometimes he'd be on the stage, and he had to pick up a weapon and defend something. You know, all of this is going on.
That seems to be a fantasy, and
it's really strange. But the point is that at the bottom end of that spectrum, people say, oh, well, I don't remember my dreams. And what happens is, the more that you talk about not remembering your dreams, something seems to trigger in your brain to want to remember them, almost like, well, how come they can remember their dreams and I can't? So psychologically, there can be a trip switch. So you can encourage that by saying, all right, have next to your bed a journal, notebook, whatever, or your phone.
Yeah.
And as soon as you wake up, think, okay, ask yourself, okay, self, okay, brain, okay, heart, did I get anything last night? And then you might just get one word or one sentence, and you start there, and you date it, and then you maybe if it's a dream, you just give it a name or a title, and you begin to store what you get.
I'm going to try that.
Yeah, I might do too. Someone's asked, what if a relative who's passed away pops up in our dream? In fact, we've sort of answered it, but maybe there's a little bit more we can say about it.
Well, just to recircle on a relative, this is really important, because everyone at some point in their life suffers a bereavement, and there's a grief that goes with that. Now, depending on the emotional impact of that relative, that will determine the type of dream that you have and the emotional intensity of the dream. So if it's your grandma, you absolutely love her to bits, she brought you up, you know, she'd give you treats, she'd be the one you could run to when you can go with your parents, whatever it is, she'll be very high on your list of favorites on this earth. Well, when she dies, she doesn't cease to be that person. For your heart, your head says she's gone, your heart says, no, she hasn't. Because your heart is dealing at the emotional level of the connection with your grandma, not the cognizant relationship. With your brain says, I've got to deal with this, I've got to close it, I've got to move on. Your heart says, well, actually, I don't really want to move on.
I like that.
Yeah.
And so it is about, when someone goes, it is about your heart being healed over time. Yeah.
I think what happens, the last thing to say about that is that if it goes on too long, in other words, if your heart is ruling your head, that's what happens when people cannot get out of their grief cycle. They won't move through. So rationally, their head says, you need to move on. Your heart says, why? Okay.
So I've got another one which says, what do I do if a parent doesn't believe my dream or can't help me with my dream?
This is quite common. even if parents, I'm not pitting parents on this, but even if parents have dreams themselves, they, in this culture, they would tend to manage them. Say, well, you know, it's all ranges from words like the dream is a toilet of the mind, just processing all the crap from the day. I hear that quite a lot. To, well, they're so subjective, they're personal, they don't mean anything outside of your space. And anyway, it's all random, and you were asleep when you had it, so it can't make any sense because you just deal with rubbish. So you're up against a kind of rationale which is uninformed and unwilling to even look at what the dream might be saying. Now, ironically, it is often about those parents that the dream has been prompted. So, of course, it's even possible that this has happened actually in the past, where the young person has a dream about a parent and the parent's attitude to them, because they're emotionally processing all of that, it can't go anywhere because it can't be dealt with. So, of course, then you're back into your recurring thing again. The heart's not happy. It'll just keep kicking up situations where it's saying, you need to deal with this, and your head is saying, I can't because. Is that helpful?
So what if you've got a parent who actually does want to help, and their child is having nightmares or night terrors or whatever they're called? How can they, you know, like, if they don't really understand it, what can they do?
Well, there's night terrors and there's nightmares, and they are different. Night terrors are common to young people. Like, for example, Jody, how old were you when you had the blanket dream?
Probably 6 or 7.
Yeah. See, that's why I thought blanket of security. That between the ages of 1 and 12, I suppose, you tend to have dreams that are dealing with anxieties over security, affirmation, being loved, or needing love and not getting it. Security is a big thing. Emotional security is one of the biggest things. So those are quite common. We would call those night terrors, because they often feel like nightmares, but they're not actually nightmares. They're just the normal processing of the heart to the head, saying, I need something I'm not getting, help me. Nightmares are often driven by dark forces, not forces of light.
Okay.
I'm not saying they all are, and sometimes you need discernment when you're interpreting these, but there is a spiritual universe out there, a parallel to our human universe, and sometimes stuff does translate over, and you will tap in, particularly if you've been watching stuff which is dark in content that can open a window, and then you can have stuff which is really not helpful, and it's quite hard to get rid of. It's a bit like having a stain that's hard to actually scrub out, because you've opened something, you've opened yourself to it through your brain, and it's actually needing to be sorted out. But the point about that is that you're not going to get an answer to every dream, an interpretation to every dream. I mean, it is there, but sometimes if you've had 50 dreams, it might take you a while just to understand. So the quantity of dreams isn't the point necessarily. The point is, what's the theme? So when you're listening to people who have dreams, which are in this context that you're saying, you need to listen to other dreams that they've had and say, okay, what's actually going on here? What is the person trying to say to themselves through the dream? And you can become quite good at that. You don't need to be a master interpreter to pick up the same theme. Usually it's fear. It's driven by fear. So you think, oh, there's a fear theme here. It's an anxiety that's bordering on fear. And if you look at it, there's an escalation of that over the dreams. But it's becoming more and more emotionally conflicting or emotionally intense. It's the same pattern, but it's increasing in its emotional content. It might get more and more bizarre simply because it isn't being addressed, or the person isn't being believed, or they can't go anywhere with it.
So if it's a fear and insecurity, then constant reassurance and constant different ways of trying to help your child feel that they are loved and okay, helping them to feel more secure.
I think that what you have to look at every dream from a dream interpretation point of view, every dream we look at, whether it's live or written, whatever, we think, okay, where's the dream going? What can the person do with the interpretation? What does their heart want to do with it, if you like? What is their heart telling their head they actually need? So we're always thinking, what's the redemptive? What's the restoring nature of this? What can we give them in response to them telling us the dream, us giving them some reassurance? What is it? How can we best help them in moving through their dreams and through a time when they may be having quite a number of dreams on a similar theme? So what you're looking at, which is where your discernment or your perception comes in, is what's actually going on and how can we best address it?
Cool. Thank you.
Another question I've got is I think can a dream be so scary that I could die in my sleep? That's quite
Yeah. You know, when it feels so real. Yeah.
The emotional intensity, of course, is what makes you feel that you are engaged in it. So if you have a series of situations or dreams where you can't get any release or relief, there's no way out, it's a kind of a cul-de-sac. So if you imagine a cul-de-sac in real life, if you cycle or drive or walk, you come to a point where it's just a circle at the end. It might be quite a long cul-de-sac, but if it's a cul-de-sac, by definition, there's no way out. So you go round and round and round and round. So everybody in their lives comes to cul-de-sac at some point over some things. We all do. That's human nature. So in this situation you're talking about, I can imagine how kids can actually just go round and round the same circuit and not find a way out. But they can't go back the way they came in. That's not an option.
Mhm.
So that's your heart telling your head, I'm going round in circles.
Okay.
So that's why you get, or one of the reasons why you get this generation of this paranoia that says, I can't get out.
And feeling trapped.
Yeah.
So young people feel trapped.
Yeah, exactly right. I'm not sure how positive that response is.
No, it's just, yeah.
But we're dealing with how dreams operate in terms of being quite faithful, actually. Dreams don't lie most of the time. They will tell you how they're feeling, whether you like it or not. So if it's telling you you're just going around in circles, chum, that's because you probably are. The question then is, some of the things that you guys can put in will help them to find a route. And it's unlikely that you can deal with all the issues that come up in your time with them, because you're not in a position to be able to make those things go away. So it's important as a dream interpreter or a counselor or coming alongside, befriending people, whatever your role is, that you don't promise to be able to say, well, it's going to be fine. Or I can sort this out for you, leave it to me, because actually you probably can't. If people are in this cul-de-sac situation, is to say, look, I'm not sure I can solve this problem for you, but I can, at least to some extent, walk through it with you.
Be there.
So comfort is important, reassurance is important, affirmation is important, looking at good stuff is going on, not only the bad stuff. In other words, the amount of time you spend on the bad stuff, discussing the bad stuff, will always grow.
Okay.
So if you encourage people, encouragement grows. If you discourage people, discouragement grows.
Yeah.
I think with children, we have to recognise as well that a lot of what's going on inside of them is coming from their environment, and their immediate family environment. So there are things that parents can do by recognizing what's actually going on, that will affect the child emotionally and create nightmares or whatever.
I think
because children generally feel this fear thing, the whole fear thing, when life seems to go out of control. What they know, their stability seems to go, you know, sideways, and they start to react in an emotional way. So one way could be that the parents can look at what's actually going on in their own family relationship thing that the child is seeing that may be causing that child distress, and a number of other, you know, ailments are triggered off then, you know, unable to sleep, things like that, because they're stressed. The whole stress thing can have a lot of different effects as well on a child's health. So they can take it back to what's going on in the environment, in the immediate environment. Maybe do something to start there.
Yeah, I know a lot of parents have tried to protect their children from feeling the uncertainty of COVID, but the longer school is shut for, the harder that is for them to have any sense of normality, and things are you know, yeah. So it's hard for parents at the moment, I think.
I think COVID has tested everybody. And
to their limits.
The way it's tested many people is it started by curtailing freedom. It then gave us a big message of fear. Nobody's safe. And I think if they know relatives who have died or in hospital or struggling with it and they can't see them, they can't, you know, your grandma dies, you can't get to the funeral. I mean, there's trauma.
That's it.
All over the place. So we're living traumatically. Now, it's not surprising your dream life is going to reflect the trauma. What else can it do with it? Where can it go? You're in the cul-de-sac of trauma. So it's important to help people, almost like a counseling principle. You say, do you know what occurs to me is you're living out trauma. This is exactly what's happening. You are living out emotionally how you are feeling about all the stuff that you have no control over. Many of our dreams worldwide are about lack of control and the trauma that's attached to that as a standard. So you could say you are in common with many millions of people in this country who are all going through the same internal lockdown. And the heart doesn't stop feeling, because the heart can't do what the head does and rationalize. Say, well, I can't go out, I can't do that, I can't do this.
Yes,
The heart says, well, hang on, what's the problem? So it then starts, oh, well, that's the problem. So it's responding to the problem emotionally. In the same way that people explode verbally or physically violently, or kick a door or kick the dog or run away or have a rave, you know, in a disused barn, whatever it is, it's a way of actually wanting to escape, even for a short period of time, from this internal lockdown. So dreams, it is likely in the last year that more people have more dreams which are reflecting the trauma of the situation. And the longer it goes on, the more those dreams are likely to increase.
Okay, thank you. Do you want to add anything, Jody, before I turn the conversation to something completely different now?
It's good.
Okay. It's hard times. The different question. So the question of like deja vu, you know, when you feel like I've been there, I've dreamt that, haven't I done that already? You know, where does that come from?
Sometimes it really has happened.
Oh, okay.
But you're seeing it before it's happened. Okay. I think there's a number of things to say. Very briefly, because it's a big subject. Dreaming is a phenomenon, but it's only one of the sensitivities or sensibilities that we have. We have the ability to see into the future or to imagine the future. or to almost arrange things that somehow turn out to be, oh gosh, I dreamt that. So you can walk into a room and think, I know this room. I've been here before. Well, you've been there in another time, and a dream or somewhere else, and you've constructed this, and there it is. And there are people on the spiritualist circuit who make money out of this kind of stuff. But we all have this ability to project something by arranging all the elements of it together in one place in a particular order, and then the scenario is created, almost like a virtual room.
Okay.
You know, when you go and get a new kitchen, if you have a new kitchen, you've had someone design it, you go at a home base or Wix, and they sit you down off the big screen, and they start submitting, trying to say, well, would you like the cooker? Okay, in comes the cooker, in comes the floor, in comes the lighting, and you see the different lights and different colors, different fabrics, and they create a room for you. Now, that can happen in your head. You also have what's called the power of imagination.
Yes.
Leonardo da Vinci, for example, dreamed about the helicopter several hundred years before such an item was ever flying. So the imagination is a powerful tool which seems to connect everything across the board. It's a bit like all the strands of something coming together in layers. So imagination will bridge everything from something you're passionate about and wants to see to you actually imagining it, and then it can become real in your dream. So it's quite a complex process, and we all do it. Those of us who believe in the power of our imagination and work with it tend to be able to see more and do more. Artists and designers and engineers and visionary people are on that end of the spectrum that will be able to imagine something and see it. I'm a decorator. Someone says, oh, I'd like to use this color in this room. I can see that color on that wall. Not in real life, but in my mind, I can imagine that wall painted in that color. And I will then say, actually, I think that is great. Or I think we need to think about this because in the winter time, we've got 5 months of, whatever it might be. But I can use that as a skill I've developed by working in the industry for 25 years, working with color. So there again, imagination is growing, it's feeding on your experience.
And I think young people have got the best imagination going, some of them. They're just their imaginations are just a lot more unlimited than,
So I would never despise imagination. What I would say is people who have what we would call vivid imaginations are usually people who are actually quite emotionally sensitive.
Okay.
And they will struggle with what they see when things aren't going well for them. So that connects into the dream life. So emotionally sensitive people will often have intense emotional dreams, emotional intensity dreams, when they're going through trauma.
That's making sense to me now. I've seen that.
Yeah, I'm learning.
Young people. Sorry, Jody?
I just said I'm learning a lot, yeah.
Wow. So thank you. Do you have any other questions, Jade?
I think there's only one more, which was how long have people been studying dreams for?
Thousands of years, literally thousands, probably something like 5,000 to 6,000 years.
Wow.
Certainly you see them in the Bible. There are
20, how many? Yeah, I was going to say, how many are in the Bible?
There are about 22, 23 dreams in the Bible from over the whole Bible. Most of them occur in the Old Testament, but not by any means all. And visions, of course, go alongside dreams. We haven't talked about visions, but we have this ability to see a vision that is something which is outside of ourselves, which is shown to us inside, which can affect the heart. So that's. But when we say, oh, I have a vision of something, usually what we mean is I can see it in my mind. That's your imagination. To be able to say, I can see it in my mind, is you expressing the faculty of imagination. So you could imagine, I could say to you, what's your kitchen look like? You can then think kitchen, and then you can cognizantly tell me what your kitchen's like. You could do me a virtual tour, couldn't you, of your kitchen, if you know it. But you also committed it to mind. Up here, you've restored it up, you can recall it at will. So that's your imagination and your experience, whether it be emotional, practical, intellectual, they all work together to give you a picture of something. So to your original question, studying dreams has been taken very seriously in almost every country that isn't Western Europe. All the major world religions, except Christianity, sadly, although that's no longer the case, have embraced dreams as part of their means of guidance, of spiritual guidance. So it's written in to the kind of cultural code of most countries. So some will embrace. I mean, I've got people I know from Iran, Iraq, and southern India, and when they have a dream, they write it down. They take notice. They're there. They're thinking, okay, they don't say, oh, it's just a dream. They say, well, what does this mean? They ask that question. If I have this dream, I have this dream for a reason. So they're more likely to embrace it and believe in it as having a meaning. Most of the time in Western Europe, we just regard it as the toilet of the mind.
So that sounds like a good challenge for us, to take our dreams more seriously and to just try and write down. I like it. You just said one word. It doesn't have to be like a whole story and lovely, beautiful joined up paragraphs. Just one word or
a sentence is so good.
A sentence, yeah.
It's like saying, what did I feel about this dream? What do I think this dream is saying? Have I had this dream before?
Okay.
Simple things. 3
amazing questions.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And if you keep a note, it can be a phone note, or it can be a written note. Written notes are good because you can turn the page and go back. And you can track your dreams over 3 months, 6 months, and just say, oh, it's interesting, have that dream. Same theme coming back up. Or different theme, new people, different issue. Or interestingly, same theme, different context.
And also it can help you with your own self-awareness, can't it? So
dreams will help you to understand yourself.
So yeah, thank you guys for your time. That has been absolutely amazing. And thank you to my beautiful co-host, Jody. I couldn't have done it without you.
Well done, Jo.
Hi guys! I hope you enjoyed watching, listening and learning. We now know that dreams are the language of our heart and they're trying to help us move forward with things that we're facing in our life, as well as process all the daily stuff. So who's going to take up the challenge? Who's going to answer the simple questions of how does a dream make me feel? I wrote them down. What do you think the dream is saying? And have I had this dream before? So yeah, let's keep a journal. Let's learn about what our dreams are trying to tell us. And yeah, let's enjoy our dream life a little bit more. So have a good week, guys. Bye.